Clearly, mentoring within the educational environment requires very highly developed skills for dialogue. And dialogue involves an understanding of the stereotypes that we hold and how we manage those stereotypes. It requires a certain fearlessness in terms of questioning and discussion. It requires us to analyze the assumptions and the values that we have, the behaviours that we regularly engage with. And most importantly, the dialogue needs to support an interaction of ideas and a valuing of different perspectives. And there are 4 key issues relating to difference in mentoring, which will impact on the level of dialogue and the quality of dialogue between the mentor and the reflective practitioner. These 4 key issues are perspective, the ability to look realistically at the environment; networking, the ability to make connections between individuals and maybe departments within an organization; the sense of power between the mentor and the reflective practitioner. There should be an equal relationship and not one person more powerful than another. And then, of course, there's dependency. The mentoring relationship is very supportive, but it must be made very clear that the reflective practitioner should not become dependent on the mentor for their work. And we can look at these issues very specifically. The issue of perspective for the dialogue of the mentor and the reflective practitioner, where they're all part of a very close-knit group, a very cohesive group, there can actually be more empathy between the mentor and the reflective practitioner, and this is a very powerful tool for dialogue. Where the mentor is actually maybe an outsider or from a different group, this allows for a much wider perspective to be gained by the reflective practitioner. In terms of things like outcomes and networks, where the mentor is actually part of the same group as the reflective practitioner, the outcomes are much less likely because the outcomes, the concerns, tend to be the same. Where the mentor is from a different group or an outsider in the school, the networks that can be established can be much more influential, and the outcomes, the positive outcomes from that, much more likely. Where the mentor and the reflective practitioner share lots of commonality by being in a similar working environment, the sense of power can be overcome very easily because there's a very strong rapport between the 2 people. Where perhaps the mentor is from a different group, this can actually give the reflective practitioner a much greater insight into the micropolitics, the culture and the climate of organization. Also, there's an issue around role modeling by the mentor. Where the mentor is from the same group as the reflective practitioner, role modeling actually occurs naturally without any intention. But from a different group, it does actually promote a much wider range of responses, and therefore needs much more focus and a much greater intention for reflection and reflective practice to work. And so there is a value in terms of the difference between individuals in the mentoring relationship. The difference in mentoring does encourage the reflective practitioner to set targets, to set high performance targets and to work towards those targets. And it does provide a lot of clarity, visibility to the higher levels, the management in the organization, of developing practice. And it also helps the reflective practitioner get a much greater insight into the culture and the climate of people working in the school. It encourages the reflective practitioner to recognize the value and also enhance their self-confidence, the value of their confidence, and enhance the value of their self-confidence. And this is an important and significant factor for the reflective practitioner to consider. it stimulates a lot of networking between individuals and between groups of individuals in the school. So in this sense, there are certain things that your mentor should do. The mentor should establish confidence by establishing strong working relationships and focusing on work-related issues rather than personal or family issues. The mentor should identify common areas of interest and concern, and also common values which are shared. The mentor should also make an effort to learn about the reflective practitioner as much as the reflective practitioner needs to learn about the mentor. And of course, the mentor should be able to demonstrate a high degree of empathy towards the reflective practitioner. The mentor should also be very clear about the needs and expectations, the needs of the reflective practitioner and the expectations of the mentoring relationship. And it's important for the mentor to avoid assumptions, preconceived notions about what is good and what is bad, what can work and what won't work. And in this sense, the mentor needs to be able to provide a degree of risk to the reflective practitioner in terms of their work, but support that risk so that it minimizes the amount of discomfort that the individual practitioner will experience. And therefore, reflective practice and the mentor have certain areas of dialogue to consider. In terms of the content of the dialogue between a mentor and a reflective practitioner, it can be focused on very general, universal aspects of working in an organizational setting, or it could be focused on very particular, minute areas of practice. It could also be related to the individual and how the individual is settling or working in the group environment. Or it could be a focus on the team and the community within the school. The dialogue can also be quite neutral in terms of description and explanation and analysis, but it also can focus on emotions, feelings and reactions. The dialogue that goes on between the mentor and the reflective practitioner can be very specific, very focused on particular areas, or it can be quite nebulous and cloud-like, quite diffuse and varied in terms of the ground covered. And it's focused also on achievement of particular standards or ascribing standards to the work that the individual is doing. And the dialogue can be ongoing. It's synchronous with the work of the reflective practitioner, or it could be in response to, it could be after an event, or in other words, sequential to the work of the reflective practitioner. And in terms of control, the dialogue can go between internal control, or in other words, the autonomy of the reflective practitioner, as well as external control, or in other words, control by the school or by a line manager. So the dialogue between the mentor and the reflective practitioner can vary between extremes in whatever area the two are looking at.